delay in my mouth and the words coming out. So anyhow, um, it's pretty well known in modern science and especially the quantum sciences that our brain perceives things and it creates the reality we experience. Whereas you can have two people in the same car driving down the same windy road, and one person is having the time of their life because it's kind of a sports car. They're having a great time going around all the mountain curves. Whereas the passenger may be holding on to the OS handle, feeling like I'm going to die. We're going to die. There's the same car, the same speed, the same road. Everything's the same, but one person's perception defines their experience, their reality. And a lot of times we struggle with this idea that we can actually create reality in the 3D world around us by what we think. Well, there's more to it than just what we think. There's a little more involved. There's certain physiological things that happen in our brain, our eyes, and putting pressure on the different parts of the skull will change your perception. Anyhow, so the first story I want to tell you about, and that's how I teach us through stories, is when I rented a house with some property for horses. And I had the opportunity to go talk to the previous tenant and get some information from her. And while I was there talking to her, it was a beautiful place in Montana, beautiful pasture, great place for my horses, and the house was great. I loved it there. But before I moved in, she told me all these horrible stories about the neighbors, not just one set of neighbors, but like everybody around the property. And in one case, she told me, "Oh, this man is a crazy, drunken bum, and scares her all the time." And then a couple kids, actually on the other side, were always out trying to hurt her horses and trying to do damage to her horses, and some other people, different things. So when I moved in, I made a mistake. I took her reality to be my reality before I ever met anybody. And so what I discovered is that I had somewhat fear and things about what the neighbors were doing, and watched the kids from across the way and worried that they were going to hurt my horses. I had accepted her reality. Now, her perception defined that reality. When I put my perception and I got to know the people, they weren't anything like she said they were. None of them were. There was always a story behind each one. It was whatever happened. So I learned early on, quite a few years ago, about 2001 actually, 2002, I learned a really important principle about defining our reality. And that's that the perception I had taken on from her, it first defined that my reality was the same as hers, until I changed it and realized that I couldn't judge people on somebody else's experience. So it's really important that when you hear all sorts of things about people, especially if somebody says, "Oh, you're going to meet so-and-so," and they start really sharing with you, "Well, I got to warn you, this person's like this and this and this." You already go in with a perception that will define the reality of your experience. So what you need to do is open your mind up to your own experience and see, what is your reality? What is your experience with that person? How is your perception defined what your relationship is? So with that, this isn't going to be a very long meeting, but with that, I'm going to tell you about the story of how I discovered that my neighbor was an axe murderer. And it was, oh my gosh. So picture yourself, I'm up in the mountains of Montana, got a beautiful place up there, heavily wooded around her, so you can't see the other houses. And they were on 5-acre parcels. Excuse me. And I had lived there for over a year, and I'd never met the neighbor on the other side of the property. There was all these trees and stuff. I'd never it's like you'd have to go down through a valley and up into another hill. And one morning I was sitting out, it was a Sunday morning, sitting outside in my bathrobe with a cup of coffee, and my deck was up high. It was like a second-story deck. And I'm just enjoying the whole being in the mountains. It's so amazing and peaceful. And all of a sudden I hear this woman, and she starts kind of crying. And she says, oh my God, oh. And I'm like, what's going on over there? And all of a sudden the woman says, "I'm going to die. I'm going to die." And I'm like, oh my God. And I yell out, "Are you okay?" And she couldn't hear me apparently. And I could hear her perfectly. And all of a sudden, I hear this man's voice, a fairly feeble man saying, "Mary, where are you? I can't find you. Mary, Mary." And he's kind of crying, and I'm thinking, geez, what's going on over there? And I can only judge it, what's going on over there, by what I was hearing. And pretty soon she starts screaming at him, swearing like a soldier, like a sailor. And she's just pissed off, and she's telling him this and telling him that. And he's like, keeps going, "Mary, I can't find you." And finally, she's calling him all sorts of terrible names. And all of a sudden, she kind of screams. She says, oh my God, get away from me. Get away from me." He says, "Oh, Mary, I found you." And she says, "Put that axe down. Put that axe down. Oh my God, God, get away from me with that axe." And I'm freaking out. So I get on the phone and I call the sheriff's department. I says, "Man, I think my neighbor's killing his wife with an axe." I said, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to take a gun and go over there and stop it." And of course they said, "Oh, no, don't leave your house. Stay in your house. We have a deputy. We'll have him right over there." And so I'm waiting. I've got binoculars now looking out there. And the woman's still screaming and swearing at him. And he's like, "Mary, I want to help you." And I'm thinking, oh God, this guy's a psycho. And with my binoculars, I could see a deputy sheriff come down around the backside of the house. And he had his hand on his holster, and on his gun. And he comes walking around. All of a sudden he stands up straight. He drops his hand and he just walks over there. And then I can hear some muffled talking and stuff. I'm sitting up there, I'm sweating bullets because I know this man has an axe. And I know she's afraid she's going to die. And I know he sounds feeble and incoherent. And I'm just, oh my God, I was experiencing everything that would have, my feelings, everything, the panic, the terror, because I really believed what I was hearing and interpreted it from probably some movie, my perception. So after everything calms down, I call the dispatcher and I ask her, "Can you have the deputy call me? I need to talk to him." And she said, "Sure." And I got him on the phone and I said, "I'm the one who turned this in." I said, I'm really scared. What happened? Is the woman okay? What happened with the axe?" And the deputy sheriff starts laughing and says, "Well," he says, "Mary is the man's housekeeper. The man is deaf and fairly feeble. And she forgot to bring her keys with her to get into his house in the morning to start doing the housekeeping. And she's a really large woman. And she went up on the back deck and there was a rotten piece of wood and she broke it and slipped through and it wedged her leg. It pinched her leg so she couldn't pull it out. So that's where she was going, "Oh my God, I'm going to die," because she figured he'd never find her. And she's crying because it hurts. And then when he comes out, he sees that, so he picks up an axe and he's going to chop her out. And she's scared to death now. Oh my God, he's going to chop my leg off or something. And so that's the whole screaming and swearing and all this stuff. So my lesson from that was, no matter what the reality was, the reality I experienced was I knew I had an axe murderer next door. So just a little illustration. I'll just throw in one last thing. Two people, when they're communicating together, have to remember we're talking to somebody who has a completely different perception of life. And so when you say something, they may say something or think something different. So you have to be very clear in your communications and really listen to what somebody's saying and not just run off in your head and interpreting it all right away. Really listen intently. And then I'll give you one last example and then we're done. I had a very dear friend who, well, it was my girlfriend. This was about 10 years ago. And she was really into texting. And I will say right off the bat, texting in important messages is not the way to go. And email is even, well, it may be better, but vocal is the way. If you have really important issues to discuss, texting back and forth is not the way to do it. Anyhow, what happened is she was really into texting and I really wasn't. But I wanted to be romantic. And so every time I heard a song, or this, vice versa, she would hear a song that we liked and we thought it kind of sang about our relationship, we would text just the name of the song. And there's a band called the Zac Brown Band that I really like them. And they have this song, this from, like I said, 10 years ago, called "Whatever It Is." Now, in the song, he's saying whatever it is about you, that kind of thing. But the phrase just whatever it is the name of the song. So she texts me one morning, kind of in a panic. She said, my brother had a heart attack. Please pray for him. Do whatever you can. And I didn't get the text. It did not get delivered. I think that my cell phone was out of reception. And you know how it is when you drive along and all of a sudden you go into reception, it just goes bing, 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 bing. And there's all these messages that have been piling up. Well, when I finally texted her later in the day, it was probably about 11 o'clock, I just heard that song. So when I texted her, she got the message, oh, whatever it is. And she was really upset with me, very upset with me. She thought I was callous, heartless, didn't care that her brother-in-law had a heart attack, because my only response to her was, whatever it is, without that. So our perception, your perception is defining your reality right now. If you want to do a little research and look on the victim mentality, a person who has the psychological mentality of being a victim, they literally create a reality around them where they suffer all kinds of things because they're the victim. And you can go to the other side of the scale, but the victim is a good one because it's a destructive thought pattern. And I played the victim. I got divorced quite a while ago. I played the victim for years, and it got me lots of sympathy. And everybody would shake their head, "Oh my gosh, you really went through it, man." Yeah, just it fed my ego because people were paying attention to me, but it was a very negative attention. And I had a revelation one day, literally, that I was listening to a recording of Marianne Williamson on the Course of Miracles. And it's the only recording I listened to. It was about a half hour of her stuff. And she was describing the victim mentality. And as she described this man who had been divorced for 14 years and how he was still stuck in it, all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, that's me. I am feeding this victimhood, and it's creating more victim experiences for me. All I needed to do was realize it, and I made a decision not to be a victim anymore. And I haven't been a victor. I lived in a place called Victor. So anyhow, this is just a little bit to get you thinking about